I was just fixing my bike, that's all. Sun was out, my hands were greasy, and then she walked by and said, "If I were younger, I'd ask for a ride." I laughed. Polite, quick, trying not to make it weird. But the way she looked at me, like I was something she used to believe in. That's when I knew. This wasn't just some passing comment. Let me ask you something. Have you ever heard someone say one sentence and it stuck in your chest for days? Like they saw a version of you you didn't even realize was still there. If that's ever happened to you, drop a in the comments. And if you've ever crossed a line without meaning to, hit like. Subscribe. We talk about the kind of stories most people are too scared to admit. Name's Taylor Kelly, 33. Live in this quiet little town where the loudest thing most Sundays is my old Harley. I've been married to Liliana for almost 10 years, high school sweetheart. We met over spilled fries and stolen glances. But marriage isn't the movies. Sometimes you wake up and realize you're living with someone who doesn't really see you anymore. Don't get me wrong, we weren't fighting, we weren't cheating, we were just quiet. That Sunday, I was outside, tightening a belt on the Harley, music low, sweat running down my back. It was the only thing lately that still made me feel like myself. Then she walked by. Aaliyah Haley, mid-40s, smooth voice, married to Leif Hogan, who I knew from church but never really talked to. She'd moved in down the street a few months ago, always looked like she walked off a magazine cover, confident, classy, like she knew exactly who she was. She paused, looked at the bike, then at me, tilted her head and said, "If I were younger, I'd ask for a ride." I chuckled. "Good thing I don't check IDs, I joked. She smiled. Just stood there. And in that moment, the air felt different. Not heavy, not wrong, just electric. She said, "Nice day, huh?" and kept walking. But I stood there, wrench still in hand, watching her go like I'd just opened a door I didn't know existed. It should have ended as a compliment, a harmless little flirt. But it didn't. Not even close. At first I thought it was just a one-time thing. Aaliyah walked by, said her thing, and that was it. Except, it wasn't. The next Sunday she came by again. This time with 2 glasses of lemonade. Said it looked like I'd been out in the sun too long. I thanked her. She leaned in just a little too close when she handed it to me. Week after that, a pie. Peach, homemade, still warm. "Leif doesn't eat sweets," she said, "but I bake when I get restless." I laughed and said, "You might start a trend. I fix bikes when I get restless." She said, "Then I guess we're both just trying not to fall apart." And I don't know why, but that stuck with me. I told myself it was innocent. That she was just being nice, that I was just being polite. But I started noticing things I shouldn't have. Her perfume. The way she always touched my arm when she laughed. The way her voice dipped low when she asked questions like, "Do you ever wish things turned out differently?" That one almost made me drop my wrench. Back inside the house, things were flat. Liliana barely looked up from her phone. Dinner was quiet. Sleep was colder. We hadn't touched in over a month. She said she was tired. Work stress, everything is stressful. But it wasn't just her body that felt far. It was her whole spirit. So yeah, maybe I started looking forward to Aaliyah's walk-bys. Just a little. Then a little more. I didn't tell anyone at first. But then my best friend Yusef Nichols pulled me aside one night while we were watching the game. He said, "Man, you might want to be careful with that Aaliyah lady." I laughed, like I had nothing to hide. "What do you mean?" He raised his brow. "Just, I've seen her. She talks like that to a few guys. Just saying, don't get caught in something that's going to get you burned." I brushed it off. I'm not doing anything wrong. But that's the thing about slippery slopes. You don't notice how far you've gone until you look back and realize there's no railing anymore. But the first betrayal isn't always a kiss. Sometimes it's when you start hiding what made you smile today. It was a Thursday. Aaliyah walked by while I was closing up the garage, said her motion light was busted and Leif wasn't around. Then she smiled and added, "Think you could come take a look? You know, before it gets dark?" I should have said no, but I didn't. I told myself it was a neighborly favor, a quick fix. 10 minutes, tops. But when I got there, the garage was dim, soft music playing, a bottle of red already open. She handed me a glass without asking, said, "Just a sip while you work." I laughed. Hard to fix anything with wine in my system. She leaned back against the wall, glass in hand, watching me like I was some kind of movie. You're good with your hands, she said. I said nothing. That silence, it was heavy. She pointed toward the corner of the garage. You see that bike? The rusty one? I nodded. That was mine. Bought it when I was 19. Used to ride it down the coast when I needed to breathe. Funny how something that used to feel like freedom just sits now, stuck. She looked at me, really looked at me, and said, "Don't you miss when life made you feel alive?" That hit harder than I expected. I fixed the motion light in under 5 minutes, but I stayed for 40. We laughed. We talked. She told me Leaf hadn't touched her in over 3 years. Said she felt like a guest in her own marriage. I nodded too quickly, because the truth is, so did I. She asked if I wanted more wine. I said no, but I didn't leave. And that's when I knew. It wasn't about the wine, or the bike, or even the broken light. It was about being seen again. This isn't cheating, I told myself. There was no kiss, no touching, no line crossed. But that night I deleted her text, and didn't tell Liliana where I'd been. And that's the thing. Sometimes, it's not the act itself. It's the parts you hide. When she touched my hand that night, I didn't pull away, but I didn't pull her closer either. And that's the moment I lost control, by pretending I had any. It had been 3 weeks since I helped her in the garage. 3 weeks of small talk, glances, charged silences. 3 weeks of telling myself nothing was happening, while waiting for something to happen. That afternoon it rained. She texted me. "Storm's loud. Come wait it out. I'll make coffee." I should have ignored it, but my fingers moved before my brain did. 5 minutes later, I was knocking on her door. The lights were dim, scent of cinnamon and something sweet in the air. She handed me a mug, brushed my hand as she did. We sat in the kitchen, the kind of silence that hums beneath the skin. She asked me about Liliana. I gave her the polite answer. Then the honest one. Some nights we sit in bed and don't say a word, like we're both waiting for the other to admit it's not working. Aaliyah didn't smile. She just said, "You deserve to be known, Taylor, not just tolerated." I don't know who moved first. Maybe we both did, but suddenly her lips were on mine, soft, real, heavy with every unsaid word we'd both been swallowing for years. Just one kiss. No fireworks, no music, just the sound of two people too lonely for their own good. And as fast as it started, I pulled away. Mumbled something about being stupid, left my mug half full on her counter. I got in my truck and drove, fast, heart pounding, hands shaking. But the crazy part, I felt more alive than I had in months. Maybe years. Next morning, I walked into the shop like nothing happened. But my head was spinning. That's when Cedric Wood, old-timer, gray beard, been through 2 divorces and still shows up early every morning, noticed something was off. "Didn't sleep, huh?" he said. I didn't answer. He took one look at me and said, "A man doesn't always fall in love. Sometimes he just falls into absence." I didn't even ask what he meant, because I knew. That night, Liliana was folding laundry when she pulled out a crumpled receipt from the hoodie I wore at Aaliyah's. Wine. 2 bottles, from the shop up the street. She stared at it. Didn't yell, didn't cry, just said, "Did you have a little celebration I should know about?" And I lied. Said Youssef brought it over for the game. She stared at me for a moment too long, then dropped the receipt in the trash. We didn't talk the rest of the night, and when I finally fell asleep, I dreamed about Aaliyah. Not her lips, her hands, tracing the rust on that old bike like it still had a story left to tell. I should have told Liliana the truth then, but I thought I still had a choice. I didn't. I thought I'd covered my tracks, deleted the texts, cleared the call log. Keep the conversations short, safe, surface level. But secrets? They don't stay buried, especially when you're already living in a graveyard of unspoken things. I left my phone on the kitchen counter one night. Stupid. Unlocked. Liliana had every right to look, and she did. I came back in to see her standing there, scrolling. Not panicking, not yelling, just scrolling. She turned the screen to me, said, "Who's Aaliyah?" I didn't lie, didn't dance around it, didn't try to twist the truth. "I kissed her," I said. "Once." She looked down, exhaled, and when she finally met my eyes again, she didn't cry. She just said, "Then maybe I should tell you about Kevin." That name hit harder than anything I expected. "Kevin who?" "Kevin Jennings," she said. "My therapist." That word, therapist, hung in the air like it was supposed to make it okay. But then she added, "It didn't start like that. I just needed someone to talk to." But after a while, it became more. That word, coming from her, felt like a blade. I don't know what hurt worse, the fact that she betrayed me, or that I wasn't even surprised. Because maybe we were both searching for attention, for someone to see us again, for someone who didn't carry years of silent resentment in every look. We didn't fight, didn't scream, didn't throw things. She walked upstairs, closed the door behind her. I grabbed my jacket, went to the garage, sat beside the bike I never finished fixing. Pulled out the wrench, tightened bolts that didn't need tightening, because it was the only thing in my life that still made sense. Maybe we both broke first, but I just admitted it later. We tried therapy, once a week in this cold little office that smelled like vanilla and tension. The counselor asked about trust. Liliana talked. I didn't. Then I talked. She didn't. We went in circles. Clean, quiet, polite circles. No shouting, no slamming doors. Just two people saying the right words, but never really hearing each other. Aaliyah moved. No warning, no goodbye. One morning her house was just empty. I didn't ask where she went, didn't want to know, because that part of the story? It was over the moment she kissed me back. I finally finished the bike. Chrome polished, engine smooth. Every part exactly where it was supposed to be, but I never rode it, just kept it in the garage, like a memory I didn't know what to do with. I started journaling, nothing deep, just thoughts, fragments, questions I couldn't ask out loud. One afternoon I was talking to my brother-in-law, Zaire Jaramillo. He's been through his own mess. Divorce, remarriage, loss. So when he talks, I listen. I told him everything, about Aaliyah, about Liliana, about the bike I couldn't ride. He looked at me and said, "Sometimes the marriage doesn't break from cheating, it breaks from forgetting how to see each other." And damn, that one stayed with me. A couple weeks later I was driving past the park, saw this young guy working on a busted-up motorbike, grease all over his jeans, head down, focused. Then a woman walked by, pretty, older, confidence. She smiled at him, said something I couldn't hear. He laughed, nervous, proud, a little stunned. And for a second, I saw me. Right at the edge of a story he didn't know he was in yet. I watched from the car, didn't say a word, just rolled the window up and drove away. It started with a bike, it ended with silence, and in between were all the things we never said when it mattered. It's been 7 months. Liliana and I aren't divorced, but we're not really married either. We talk sometimes, have dinner once in a while. She asks how work is. I ask if she's still seeing Kevin. She says no. I don't ask why. She doesn't ask about Aaliyah. We sit across from each other, fork to plate, stories half told, silence is well practiced. There's no screaming, no blaming, just this quiet space between us neither one of us dares to cross anymore. The bike? Still in the garage, fully fixed, clean, shining, ready to ride. But I haven't touched it because it doesn't feel like mine anymore. Or maybe I just don't trust where I'd go if I ever started it again. Sometimes at night, I flip through the journal I started, read old entries, try to find the exact moment it all started falling apart. But there isn't one. Because marriages don't usually explode, they erode. In the spaces where we stop showing up, where we stop asking, stop touching, stop being seen. You don't always cheat for lust. Sometimes you cheat to remember who you were before life made you forget, to feel interesting, wanted, alive. But the truth, that moment of escape, it always costs more than you think. Let me ask you something. Have you ever crossed a line that didn't feel like a line at the time, but now it haunts you? If that hit somewhere deep, drop a ha in the comments. Like this video. Share it with someone who's been there. And if you still believe honesty can hurt, but silence kills, subscribe. We tell the stories most people are too scared to say out loud.